Hey, how's it going? My name is Rob, and today I'm really excited because I get to talk to you about teamwork. But it's not the teamwork that you're used to hearing about. This teamwork involves your habits, behaviors, and activities that you do throughout the day to help you reach your goals. Okay, so the New Year is coming up, and a lot of us are planning New Year's resolutions. But in order for those resolutions to work, we have to make sure that our habits, activities, and behaviors, let's just call them HBAs, are aligned with our goals. So there's a 5-step process that I usually do to make sure they're aligned, and I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so let me give you an overview of the 5 steps. So the first one is to understand and accept our HBAs, which is habits, behaviors, and activities. The second one is to break them into segments. The third one is to see how those HBAs are aligned with our goals. The fourth one is to target the ones that we want to change. And then the 5th step is to evaluate if that's actually effective, right? If the changes that we're making are effective. Okay, so we're going to talk about how these habits now relate to a goal. So let's use the example of losing weight because it's very common. So step number 1, so we said understand and accept our habits, behaviors, and activities. First, we have to understand that we have habits, behaviors, and activities. Our habits relates to the things that we do every day without thinking. Our behaviors relates to our attitudes like, oh, working out sucks, or oh, eating healthy is gross. And then our activities is how we do the things that we do. So for example, let's just say we have 3 habits, right? We eat really good for breakfast, but really, really bad for dinner. And we run every day. So the activities relates to how do we run? Do we run a mile, 2 miles? Do we run at the park? Is there a better place to run, right? And let's talk about, for example, eating. So what do we eat? Do we eat vegetables, fruits? Where do we get them from? What do we have in our house that is related to our goals? Like, do we have fruits and vegetables, or a bunch of snacks, chocolates, candies, all that kind of stuff? Let's talk about step 2. So we're going to break down these HBAs into segments. So this is not that hard to do for this particular set of activities. So breakfast, it happens in the morning. And maybe understand what triggers your breakfast eating habits. So you see cereal, you get it, that's fine. Dinner. Why do you eat so bad for dinner? Maybe you're stressed out during the day. Maybe you lost a lot of willpower because you eat so healthy for breakfast and lunch. And then let's talk about running. So why do you run, and do you run as much as you could run had you had other attitudes about working out? Let's talk about step number 3. So understanding how those HBAs impact our goals. Well, clearly 2 out of those 3 impact our goals in a good way. The eating healthy and the running. Unfortunately, one of those team members is dragging us down. The eating bad, right? So we're understanding, okay, this particular habit or activity or behavior or whatever is the one that's holding us back. So how do we change it? We want to target that one, and we understood that we want to target that one, or we understand that we want to target that one. So that's step number 4. We're going to target the ones that are holding us back. So how do we do this? Step number 4 is actually the most involved step. Step number 4 is the key. Step number 4 is where all the magic happens. Without step number 4, there's not even a point to go into step number 5. So step number 4 is where you analyze your habits, behaviors, and activities very closely. And let me give you an example of a habit, behavior, and activity that I recently analyzed that made me realize that I need to change. So when I was studying for the GMAT, I realized that I had this really bad habit of thinking that I knew a lot, when in fact I did not know as much as I wanted to believe that I did. So I would spend maybe like 30 minutes on a problem trying to solve it because I knew the answer, but in reality I didn't know the answer. And so all that time that I spent trying to force myself to get the answer right, even though I didn't have the fundamental knowledge to get it right, I was wasting where I could have spent that time just accepting that I didn't know it, clicking any answer, and then learning based on reading the explanation, or maybe going online and looking stuff up. And so the fact that I changed that about myself really made me more efficient and effective at learning the stuff. And that is really key right there, is knowing where you need to change, accepting the fact that you need to change, and then changing. And then step number 5 is where you evaluate if that worked. And so for me, I improved my GMAT score by 50 points. I'm still trying to improve it even more, but the fact that I increased it by 50 points makes me realize that, hey, the change was good, but I could always make a better change or change other things that might help me get a better score. Okay, so let me do a quick overview of the 5 steps we just talked about. So step number 1 is understand your habits, activities, and behaviors, also known as HBAs. Step number 2 is break them into segments. Basically, know what triggers them or what causes them to happen. 3 is understand how those HBAs impact your goals. And once you understand that, step 4 is target those that you want to change. This is where everything happens. We said this is where all the magic happens. Step number 5 is going through and making sure that the changes you made were good. Do the changes that you made affect in a positive way the path towards your goals? Are the changes helping you reach those goals? And if they are, you're good to go. But never stop improving. Keep getting better. But if they're not, well, go back to step number 4, or maybe even other steps. Maybe there's other habits that you haven't identified. Maybe you got to go back to step number 2 and then fix it a little bit and then do the process again, and you should get better. That's basically it. Thanks so much for taking your time to watch this video, and don't forget, keep on going.